What is up, guys? Welcome back to another Supercoach Swordplay NBA podcast. Today, we're going to be doing an NBA Round 6 preview, and as usual, I'm joined by the almighty Boz. How you doing, mate?
Burns, I'm doing really good. Another week in the books. I feel like we say it very often these days. It's crazy how quick a week goes in the NBA. Yeah, plenty of injuries, but plenty of promising scores from some rookies. So, yeah, really excited to look ahead.
Yeah, no, definitely. And look, a big week, first week of the Cup, so good luck to, hopefully it went well for everyone. I just joked last week about, as long as you're playing, you should make it. I'll be honest, my brother-in-law didn't actually qualify. He had Cunningham injured on 40, Giddy injured on 40, another premium injured on 40, and oh, rough. So, sorry, huge shout out to all those that are still playing that didn't make the Cup. There's still plenty to play for, and it's very enjoyable. So, but look, going into our weeks, how'd you go, Boz?
Look, another pretty good week. Like I got 1,157, which, to the eye is probably a very strong score. It was a bit of a week of what could have been, like obviously holding Giannis and him going down injured. Even Denny Advia today, like he went into the game on 93 total points and ended up the round on 95. He went something like 3 from 18 from the field. So he couldn't buy a shot. And then Kalkbrenner from Charlotte also going down in their second ball game. So it could have been so much better, but I'm really happy from what happened in terms of Giannis and Kalkbrenner, both on my court, to escape with only going down 2 single ranks. So I'm still at 167, firmly inside, the top 200, which is great, still in the top 1%. But it was a bit of I felt really annoyed this afternoon when I kind of saw that Advia had such a poor game. But, you can't complain about everything. How'd you go, Burns?
Yeah, look, Avia did have a really banger third game, so positives there at least. But look, this sounded so nice when you said it. The 3 digits, the 1-6, I think 7, so nice. I'm at a 2590, so much further back. Scored 1,048. Went down 36 ranks. Yeah, the team doesn't feel bad, honestly, but just each week there's always something that could be better, and I'm sort of just I guess treading water at the moment. Hopefully we can move that into a freestyle and start moving forward, but for now it's going okay.
Yeah.
But
I just want to say that it is such a luck game. Like obviously there's skill involved, but yeah, the whole injuries is a big kind of thing. And looking at last week, I'm not going to say stupid because I don't want to say people are stupid, but it was silly to trade Giannis because even though he had a 3-game week, he had the next 2 coming into 4 games where there's not many other teams running the 4-game weeks over the next few weeks. So looking long-term, you probably needed to keep him. But I know that those that actually did just bite the bullet and trade him to get someone in that was going to benefit their team immediately, they were the ones that actually benefited. So, yeah, it's a tough game to play. As I've always said, like to play pretty much in the short term. But if I played even shorter and got Giannis out, I could be laughing. But, props to those that did because the luck was in your favor.
yeah. And look, I've done it before too, where like hindsight, I sit there and go, maybe that wasn't the greatest play, but it worked out. It worked out. So yeah, shout out to all those. So, look, there's also some hindsight there too, in the sense that he's already missed 2 games with rests, and maybe people are looking at that and going, look, his schedule's great, but he's getting rested a lot, and we don't like that. So, who knows? But either way, congrats to those that did, and even those that didn't, it's perfectly fine. He's expensive, easy to pivot to anyone. So no problem there. But we will look at going forward here. So make sure you obviously join our open league as well. I will throw it down in the description below. Just going to quickly open it in front of me here because I didn't have that prepped. 779588. You can compete against us. If you're like 151 people in that group already beating me, then you're feeling pretty good. Maybe not too many beating Boz though. So that's the real challenge. Go out there and contest that, man.
There's still 19 people beating me, so right onto the 19 currently ahead of me. It's very impressive.
Definitely. But we'll jump into some injury news. So I'm going to be bringing up the injury slide. Now, that is not the slide I wanted. Injury one. This is not the guys that are actually injured. This is the old one. Once again, shout out to DR, who's dealing with plenty of things at the moment, and all the best to him and his family. But yes, because he does all that stuff for us, I do have a bit of an older slide here. So sorry in advance, but I mean, these guys are notoriously injured anyway. So I feel like it's right for them to be up there.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, I was going to say that one of those guys is still injured, and I think this is one of the slides from probably week 2. So, funnily enough, Anthony Davis is still injured. I guess we can start with him, but yeah, Anthony Davis is still getting labelled as doubtful going into every game. So, when someone's named as doubtful, it's obviously a doubt they're going to play. I'd say it's more than 50% chance they're not going to play, but there's just been no real kind of concrete timeline on this, and he's someone that you can't trust. I wouldn't trust, and yeah, you're just not trusting him for the rest of the year. But in terms of other guys that aren't on that visual there, Ferns, we got Giannis, who was obviously gone down with a low groin strain. It was a 1 to 2 week injury. It happened this time last week, roughly. So potentially only 1 week away, Giannis. Potentially could be back in their next ball game. We haven't heard much, but that 1 to 2 label would probably make me think that it's more towards the back end of that. So I think most people will be trading Giannis out this week. We have Drew Holiday, who popped up on the injury tag about a week ago with a questionable calf. That is now turned into a 1 to 2 week concrete timeline on that. So I know a few people kind of pivoted towards Drew Holiday because the Portland Trailblazers had a really good schedule coming up. Unfortunately, that's actually done you no favors there because he's actually out for 1 to 2. Aaron Gordon in Denver has done a hamstring. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks, and he joins Christian Braun on the sidelines, who done an ankle last week, who also missed 4 to 6 weeks. This is important to note because there's someone I want to talk about later in the mid-price section that has been getting a starting role now moving forward in Denver, and I think he's got that locked in now for another at least 3 to 4 weeks. But we'll touch on him a bit later. Ja Morant's hurt a calf, so we talked about him last week, but he officially is out for an extra week. Domantas Sabonis, so he was a good trade from you, Verns. He actually has a partially torn MCL, or meniscus, I think, actually, I should say, and that's going to put him out for 3 to 4 weeks. The Kings beat Denver yesterday, but they are a shambolic organization at the moment, and we should know that Wemby's also out for the next probably about 1 and 1.5 weeks moving forward. Now, they're the long-term injuries, but quickly for the short-term, looking into the next week, we have from Boston, Neemias Queta, who some people might still have. I got rid of him a couple of weeks ago. He turned an ankle today and didn't return in that game. So, you'd probably think that he might be questionable going into their next game. So if he's someone you have on your bench, potentially could be one to look to move on. Kalkbrenner, a very popular rookie, in his second out of 4 games this week, turned an ankle in the first quarter, did not return for that game, and then missed their next ball game. So annoyingly, I think with the break even now of around that 40 mark, might be someone we look to move on as well. Kevin Durant, I mean, Houston haven't been too popular due to their schedule. I don't think they are, but just in case you were, for whatever reason, thinking about KD, he's got a personal reason, something to do with the family. He's out for 2 games. VJ Edgecombe was a scratch this morning. He hurt his calf and was sat out for this game. Not sure if he's going to be returning in their next one. So again, feel these rookies now are kind of hitting a bit of a roadblock where their break-evens are skyrocketing and there's a bit of doubt over their immediate playing future. And then lastly, Shaedon Sharpe. He's also been labelled out for the last, I think, 2 or 3 ball games for the Trailblazers. I think he was a very popular trade-in as well, seeing as Portland's their fixture was really good. Unlike Drew Holiday, there's no real timeline on this one. It's just going game by game, and he's been just pretty confidently being called out. So I think this might be something that continues. But again, you'll have to follow along the injury report to see that. But there's a real wrap up on the injuries.
Beautiful, beautiful, mate. Love that. So I guess week 5 recap, we will jump into how the players actually did perform. I'm just going to hit us with a little screen share here, just so we can go through that. Can I just show a whole window? I think I can. Let's just show a window, because I've got plenty of tabs over on the other side for us. Where have we got? Here we go. So, week 5 points. As I'm not surprised, Jokic is up at the top, and I got to be honest, this is my first week owning him, and oh my gosh, talk about a stress-free week. This was so much better.
Yeah, just a freakish week from Jokic again. I think we're here to expect it. Won't lie, I didn't mind the fact that they lost a ball game this week. I think it gets really dangerous when teams go on big winning streaks because they do tend to kind of rest their big stars. So, I mean, they are doing really well, Denver, but Jokic even came out himself in the press conference yesterday after their loss to Sacramento, basically saying, we're nowhere near the level we need to be to win the championship. And that just tells me that if he's fit, he's playing. So, yeah, he's someone that we should not be worried about moving forward, as long as Denver, obviously, keep, maybe keeping his minutes not too high because, you look at him out on the court, he doesn't look like the epitome of health, young Jokic or old Jokic now, but he's just so good at what he does, and he's someone we continue to trust moving forward.
Yeah, awesome. Now, look, Tyrese Maxey, like obviously, huge shout out to anyone that did go there. Massive game from him. Obviously, a 1 week play though. Someone that you could hold on to a longer period of time because obviously he's playing well, scoring really well, and he's got a good break even. I don't know their immediate fixture, but I believe it's a 3 game week this week. So someone that you could move on if you want. It was really a bit more of a 1 week play, but shout out to those that did go for it. Pretty impressive that he did manage to do this. I believe Paul George returned this week, which we thought would go to probably affect Maxi's scoring, but if anything, he just went to another level. I mean, it helps when he has a 60-point game in one of those. That's super coach points, that is. So
well, he also had 55 points in that game, or 56 actual live points. So he's a freak. Look, Embiid's still out, and that's probably helping him again. And look, I think it's Maxi's team now. I think they've all kind of worked out that, moving forward, we can't rely so much on Embiid and Paul George, and they're kind of going to be those second and third options on the team. He was my kind of third captaincy option last week, so I'm glad he repaid the faith there for those that might not have been able to get Jokic in. But I just feel like this will continue. And, they've got a 3-game and a 4-game in the immediate future. And if you're someone that probably needs to get rid of Giannis, let's say, I would say that keeping Maxey on the court isn't such a bad idea. I mean, this week it's really tough to have a lot of 4s, in my opinion, because a lot of us would have kind of had a lot of guys from the previous weeks that are now entering a 3-game week. And Maxey's probably one of those ones that we spoke about last week that you can trust. You can trust that most of the time in a 3-game week, he's going to be able to get you over 100 points, because he is averaging nearly 35 Supercoach points a game, and that would be in the top 5, I'd say, in the league. So he's one of those guys we can truly trust now, with the amount of work and output he's putting in for Philadelphia.
Yeah, beautiful. Look, this one's a huge shout out to you coming up next. It's Shea. Obviously, you held on to him. Absolutely repaid last week on a 3-game week, him going 120 plus, and then a 140 plus on a 4-game week. Just beautiful, beautiful work by you.
Yeah, well, we know he hasn't been playing many fourth quarters, and that was the same today. He skipped another fourth quarter. He's just doing what he does. He's insane at the game of basketball. He's making me get rid of the guy below him, make it a lot more easier that I kept him. I think if I got rid of Shea and Jalen Johnson, I'd be in a world of hurt right now, not only personally, but I think my ranking as well would have taken a massive hit. But yeah, Shea's just someone that you can trust each week. And he's probably, to be honest, someone I'm not going to really make leave my team, I don't think, for the foreseeable future. I think I could probably, because I don't have a great fixture coming up, but I just see him playing most games and, averaging so much that I'm kind of happy to wear him in some of these low game weeks, to be honest, and kind of build around him for them when he gets these big kind of 4-game stretches, and he then becomes a bit of a pod for those in maybe the top 1 to 5%.
Yep. Look, he does come into a 3-3-2, so bit of a weaker schedule there, but very nice coming out of the double game week. But yes, moving on to obviously Johnson, JJ next. Very painful for you, of course, but as you said, with Shea doing so well, doesn't feel as bad. Huge shout out to all those that did pivot to him. Someone that you've hyped up all preseason of how good he's been, and if it wasn't for those random back-to-back games he was missing, I think someone that'd still be in your team.
Absolutely. I mean, you haven't got the crystal ball, you can't foresee the future, but just listen to this. Over this week, he had 24 points a game on 10 rebounds, 9 assists, 1.5 steals, half a block at 50% from the field, and about 78 from the free throw line. He was missing a couple more free throws this week. However, what he was doing in other categories was just insane. And I even watched a couple of Atlanta games over the weekend, especially that Pelicans game yesterday, because I wanted to watch Derek Queen, my man. And Jalen Johnson was just having his way on the court. He is seriously turning himself into, and I know everyone on Twitter is going nuts, and it helps that Trae Young's out as well, but he's seriously turning himself into a top player in this league. And props to him, because I really like the way he plays.
Yeah, awesome. Now, next we'll be moving on to Donovan Mitchell. We can sort of see it already. Obviously, Jokic's score was massive. You had the next sort of 2 that had really big scores, and then we're starting to drop off a bit with these scores from there. But still, 129, very good from Donovan Mitchell. Had a game, I think it was his 3rd game, where he did nothing for 3 quarters. I remember just watching this and being like, what is happening? And then the 4th quarter, he shows up, I think gets 19 points, goes absolutely bonkers, and somehow puts together a 30 plus super coach point game. And very, very helpful, because he was on 3 up until 3-quarter time.
Yeah, that was that Houston game, and they sometimes run that kind of Space Jam Monstars lineup when every player's over 6'7", and they really made it difficult for him. I was kind of watching that game at work, and yeah, they were just double teaming him as soon as he got the ball. They were pretty much forcing Cleveland to beat them without Donovan Mitchell. It didn't work. Houston ended up winning that ball game, but at the same time, it was good to see that Mitchell could somewhat kind of save that score. But look, for him to still get 130 Supercoach with that one game, that just shows me how much he's taken. I mean, he's always been a premier player, but I think he's just taken his efficiency now to another level. Like he shot 56% over 4 games this week. And for someone that's actually averaging 32 points in the season, that's really hard to do. So he's kind of entering that Shea range where they're so efficient that if they do have one bad ball game, you're going to back them in to have another 3 solid ball games because of just how well that kind of round they are as players.
Yep. Awesome. And now we got a pair of Clippers actually. So we got Zubac and Harden coming up here. I think we talked about them previously where they had a really good schedule for a little bit. They had, I think, a 4-game week this week, which was very helpful for them. And I think this is sort of where the end of their run is. But yeah, they've definitely had Leonard's still out, I believe.
He actually returned today, but he'll be on limited minutes moving forward, and he won't play back to back. So yeah, these guys are still great owns.
Yep. Awesome. We will just keep moving forward nice and quick. So we actually moved down to Miami, who was a team with a really good fixture that we sort of talked about previously, but there just wasn't anyone in Miami that jumped out here. So I don't really know much about their center here. Looks like he was pretty cheap to start the year. He's already made $2 million and really good score this week. So what do you have to say about Ware?
Yeah, so Ware was kind of in the fantasy basketball space like a hype guy for the season, someone that everyone was expecting to take a giant leap. And to be honest, the start of the year he didn't because Bam Adebayo was playing. And then Bam got injured. He hurt his toe and was out for about a couple of weeks. And then Ware got the starting spot and really showed that in big minutes he can do a lot. He's a massive rebounder. Like he averaged something like 15 and a half rebounds this week. So, for a center, when they're getting that amount of rebounds, like 15 rebounds over a week is a lot different to only getting 10 rebounds. So these premier rebounders like Zubac, and Ware and Klingon, who even got in the top 10 this week, they're getting monster rebound numbers, and that's really helping their score as well as their efficiency. So look, Adebayo is now back, and he's been back for a couple of games, and Ware's maintained this run. Like he's maintained. I think today he had something. I think he had 10 rebounds at halftime today. So he's obviously relishing the opportunity. He's maintaining that starting spot. The only thing is Tyler Hero is slated to make his debut, or his season debut, I should say, this next ball game. So he should be back, which means the rebounds won't go away because Ware can still average those high rebounds. But I think it's now the opportunity to score, okay? Because Ware was actually averaging over the week 16 points a game, which is decent. But I don't see that sticking because Tyler Hero literally needs to take 15 shots a game. And I'm sure it'll come off other guys like Norman Powell, who's been playing quite well, Pally Larson, a young rookie who's been getting some minutes, even Jaime Jaquez Jr. coming off the bench. He had a really good start to the year. I think Hero takes a lot of shots off those guys, but I think that also kind of directly affects Ware. Could be a little bit of too little too late. We should have jumped on early. But I guess if he keeps this up, like, I don't know, he might end up being a really valuable pick when Miami do go into a few 4-game weeks. But yeah, well done to him for having a great week.
Yeah, I feel like a little bit of a trend where I feel like a lot of the centers around this mid kind of price have been definitely performing above their price tag. And maybe that does come down to sort of, we did talk about the format being more suited towards these centers that are more efficient sort of thing. Obviously, Zubac has gone down a little bit in price, but Ware's gone up here. Klingon's gone up here. The guy from Pistons has gone up. What's his name again?
Jalen Duren.
Duran, yeah, there he is. So yeah, we've had a lot of centers that I feel like, obviously even Queen, as an example, a lot of centers just performing above their price tag. So I almost wish you had more positions for the centers available.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have two center spots and a flex, because then he literally would just run Jokic and then 2 other, massive rebounding centers.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, moving on down, we've got Giddey there. Giddey 116, not bad. I think had 3 really good games and then 1 pretty subpar game. Honestly, I personally really needed him to have some subpar games because I had a very close Supercoach Cup and my opponent was running Giddey.
Actually, so was mine, funnily enough. I think the guy I versed hadn't touched his team since the start of the season, but he did have Giddey. And to be honest, yeah, at one stage, he averaged a triple-double this week, by the way. Like, Giddy put up some monster numbers. I mean, if we're getting technical, it was 9.8 assists, but everything else was 16.8 points, 10.5 rebounds. Like, he had a big, big week. Just the efficiency stuff maybe capped that score a bit. So only shooting 46% from the floor and 72 from free throw on pretty much 6 free throws a game. So on that higher volume, that can really limit your ceiling when you are missing that many free throws and obviously shooting that low at the floor. But, you know, if Giddy's going to be averaging near a triple-double each game, he's going to be such a nice option to have at so many points in the season, especially because he's is he a power forward or a small forward on this format? I know he's a point guard.
Small forward and point guard. Yep.
That's awesome. You know, like if you can run a Jalen Johnson and a Josh Giddey in your small forwards at some stage this season, they're two guys that play like, well, they are guards pretty much, even though they do have that small forward tag.
Yeah, beautiful. We will round it off with Klingon. So you sort of mentioned it. It's like Klingon. Obviously, another center came out with a good game. Portland had a really good fixture, but I don't think very heavily owned. But also, once again, just playing above that price tag, which is something we're always very happy to see for owners.
Yeah, he's just someone that traditionally hasn't gotten a lot of minutes or enough minutes to be super relevant in any fantasy. But I think with Drew Holiday going down and Shaden Sharp, who do take away the offense kind of stuff, it just made him more involved and it actually forced him to play more than, let's say, 25 minutes. I think he actually played, if I could look, probably something around the 28, 29 minutes this week. Actually only played 26. So to be honest, not really that much, but his input went up. So he actually went from having about 7.5 field goals a week to 10. So that's 2.5 extra shots a game. And because he's a center, most of them are going in because he shoots over 50% from the floor. So just that kind of increase in offense really led to some big scores. And he's really good at defensive stats. So he had just under a steal a game and 2.3 blocks a game. So if you're getting that, that's those 2 pointers that we kind of, you know, have value with. And he's not losing many points to his field goal. So he's a really good option. He did turn an ankle. So I can't remember, did he end up playing today? I can't really remember. I didn't pay too much attention to the Portland game just because they were getting absolutely walloped and Denny was having a shocker. But he potentially he did play. Okay, well, that's good because he did turn an ankle and he was questionable. But the fact that he played is a good sign. They do have it a back-to-back day, so they play straight away tomorrow against Milwaukee. So just keep an eye on that if he's someone you're keen on, although they go into a 3-game week, so I don't think you'd be trading him in.
Yep, awesome. I'm going to bounce us down, and what we'll look at next is we're going to be looking at the fixture going forward as we will be looking at the future weeks now. So fixture-wise, once again, always a shout-out to Arson Dragon, who made a beautiful little spread for us here. Now, I've obviously gone out and moved out the weeks that have already been played. But looking forward, when we look at this fixture, I guess a couple of things that stand out. Washington on a double-game week, Orlando on a double-game week, and then OKC, probably the third worst schedule with 2-3 games into the 2-game. Every other team in the league at least has a 3-4 or 4-3 within the next 2 games. And then, obviously, there's a few teams that we can see sort of a big bunch up here, a few 4 games in a row, and specifically New York and Minnesota also get the 3-game bounce back after that as well. So best fixtures go to Minnesota and New York, followed up by Pelicans, Milwaukee, and Detroit.
Yeah, I think Toronto as well have that 4-4-3 as well.
Yep, sorry, down here, of course. Sorry.
Yeah. And even New York, if you want to look just maybe 3 weeks on. But it's interesting. We're at a point now where I think a lot of us will have a lot of Atlanta players. We will have some Charlotte assets, maybe some Chicago, definitely a Cleveland asset, maybe some Dallas, some Denver. Like, there's going to be a lot of teams playing a lot of 3-game players this week. And I think that's fine because I do think the rest of the comp will be in the same position. I don't think many people will find themselves with, for some reason, having a lot of Minnesota, New York, and Detroit players now. Obviously, we're going to be looking to get them in. So I think this week will be interesting as to kind of where people go. I know that, I'll put it this way, Detroit's going to be the most popular, I think, avenue for trade-ins this week. I think Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren, with how well they're playing and how well Detroit are playing as a team, they'll be looking to get 2 big weeks out of those guys, and then probably even holding them in that 2-game week. Do you know much about this week 8? I was kind of looking into it. It looks like between week 7 and week 8, we actually have a week break. So that's the NBA Cup. The NBA Cup kind of knockout, kind of quarterfinals, semifinals. And then it looks like we kind of start back in week 8 where the cup's finishing and teams kind of get like a mini break. And that's why we're only seeing teams playing 2 or 3 games, because I think the week actually starts on a Wednesday or something, or maybe could be Tuesday our time, but it looks like the NBA have given a few teams, because of the cup, a little bit of a break. So that's why it looks weird that every team has 2 or 3 games, but I think it's due to the NBA Cup. So I think a lot of teams all the teams are going to be playing, either 2 or 3 games. So I don't think it really matters too much about week 8, to be honest. I mean, it's always nice to have someone playing a 3 game over a 2 game, but I think you can kind of maybe just kind of block that out in your mind, to be honest, and look at maybe week 6, 7, and then 9, which I think could be a play for the future. So like a team like the Pelicans who just go 4-4-2, then back to a 4 could be good. Even a team like Cleveland, so like a Donovan Mitchell, you're holding this week, but then he's got a 4, and then the 2 suck, but he's straight back into a 4. So that's what I would start to do when it comes to kind of picking who do I actually trade out for some of these Detroit guys or some of these Indiana guys. Like, I wouldn't be trading out anyone with a 4-game week in week 9, in my opinion. That's just how I'm looking at things at the moment.
Yeah, that sounds good to me, mate. It is definitely true. The other thing I would mention there is obviously anyone that is playing towards the Supercoach Cup, you probably can't go into the week with a team full of 2-game players. You probably do need a couple of these 3-game week players, and will be a week where, because everyone's playing 2 games, those guys on a 3-game are getting a 50% bump rather than that 33% bump from a 3 to a 4-game week. So you will get more rewarded for having those 3-game week players. But there is plenty of teams that have a good fixture into a 3-game week. So yes, I agree, you don't have to force players out, but you're pre-planning, you should be able to get players in that go into a 3-game week, and you don't unnecessarily bring in guys that are going to come into a 2-game week in 2 weeks time, sort of thing. But yeah, I'm sure most of the premiums that we have currently, they probably got that 2-game week already locked in. So I agree with you. Don't move them out just because of the 2-game week. But I do think if you're looking at the future going forward, you still want to get a few of these guys on that 3-game week in round 8.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'll pose the question now, like Detroit are probably the juiciest team because of their players, but they do have the 4-4-2. So now it's like, are we trying to say that, maybe don't look at Detroit players and look more towards a Minnesota asset because they've got a 4-4-3, or a New York who have a 4-4-3? I know it's that just one extra game, but you're right. Can that be all the difference in scraping through to the next round in the Supercoach Cup if you are someone who's still around at that point? So it's an interesting one. It's going to be interesting to see how it works out.
Yeah, look, definitely going to be hard. Definitely going to be hard. I mean, when we do look at like Minnesota and New York, is there players there that really do jump out to us, or players that we do want? Like, we've already seen it though with some of these matchups. Like, you get the better players. I say better players, better Supercoach players, I should say. Like Jokic comes in, sort of thing, and even with 1 game less, he's going to outperform you. You might bring in a Cunningham, and he's going to outperform a Brunson on a 2-game week anyway, sort of thing. So it's one of those things where, as much as it'd be nice to get the guys with a 3-game week, some of these teams, they don't have the most relevant Supercoach players, unfortunately.
Yeah, most definitely. I actually totally agree with you there. There are a few options I'm sure we'll talk about when it comes to the kind of targets, but you're right in saying that sometimes you got to get those tried and tested guys as opposed to kind of taking a punt on someone that might have a couple stinky ball games.
Yeah, yep. Now let's move this off the screen, and we will jump back to my screen share, but I will just be moving us to break even. So we will quickly look at the break even. So the rookies we got a target coming into this week. Now it's nothing like last week where we had some crazy minus 30 break evens, but we still have some good minus break evens, and this is definitely where it's getting hard. I feel like the better rookies are getting up in price, or they're not getting these super low break evens anymore. So as the season goes on, we're going to see less and less of them, and it's going to be harder to sort of downgrade, I guess.
Yeah, you can see there's not many of those 3.5 million guys anymore, is there? There is one, Caleb Love. So he was someone who stepped in for Drew Holiday and Shaden Sharp being out. Now we know that Holiday is still going to be out for a week. Shaden Sharp's the one we don't know. If Shaden Sharp comes back in their next ball game, then Love literally becomes obsolete, like useless. He won't get enough minutes to do anything. It's that kind of risk versus reward. I mean, Dennis Jenkins last week, we said that when Cade comes back, he's going to be useless. Fortunately for us, Cade missed the first ball game. And in that second ball game, he actually started alongside Cade. By the end of the week, though, Jenkins pretty much went back to a 10 to 15-minute role, like I pretty much predicted. However, his break even is now, or he's made enough money this week to the point where his break even over 4 games isn't in the minuses, but it's at about 12. So hopefully he continues to play at least 10 minutes a game. So someone like Caleb Love, we're kind of needing that luck, I think. I think we do. And I do think he's an okay option. I mean, Portland go have a 3-game week and then back into a 4-game week. I would just like people to kind of, before you pull the trigger, just kind of do your research on Shaden Sharp. If there's any news on him tomorrow, put it this way, if he gets called out before the Milwaukee game, we can probably safely assume that he might be missing, obviously, that game, but maybe even the next one. And I would confidently then put Love in the team because I think he needs the minutes to produce. I think we saw it yesterday against Golden State. He put up a career night. And then today, I couldn't even tell you what he did, but it wouldn't have been great because it didn't seem like, what did he score for the week? Like 40 something. And I think one of those games, if we have a look there, Verns, could have been like mid-20s. Yeah, there we go. So that's the thing. If he's getting -1s for 4 games or 3 games this week, it's like he's still technically making money, but actually, no, he's not. He's only got a -2 break even. So he's someone that, he looks good, but at the same time, you have to do a bit of research into the reasons why he's got a negative break even.
Yeah, definitely. We do have some of these elevated rookies that are a bit more tried and tested, though. Shepherd was really, really good. And honestly, one of those rookies where I feel confident him being on field, most situations. But yeah, I don't know if you'd go there at $7.5 million, though, for Shepherd. Unfortunately, someone you hopefully got last week because he had that -30 something break even. Nuppel is actually a gun, and do you get a Knuckle? Do you get him in if you don't have him at this point? Like, the man scored 114, 11th highest scorer for the round. Like, it's one of these things where if he continues to score like that, he's going to continue to make another 5-6 million on his price tag, let alone the actual points on field he's putting down. Do you go there if you don't have him?
Well, I'll put it this way. They only have a 3-game week this week. So, if you don't have him, it's kind of a bit of a interesting trade, especially if you're putting him on your court. But I mean, you probably could have worse picks on your court. However, they have a back-to-back, and what that means is Brandon Miller will most likely miss one of those. So the whole knock on Knuckle was, when LaMelo comes back and when Brandon Miller comes back, he's just not going to do enough. He's doing more. He's actually their best player at the moment. Like, he's looking 10 times better than LaMelo, which is interesting to say. And I'm sure his situation will become very interesting by the trade deadline. I think there's a few rumors swirling around there that there might be an offload there. But even Brandon Miller, he's just getting back into things off a long-term shoulder injury. So they're not going to put him out there for too long. They're going to put him on a minutes cap. They're going to have these injury management tags on him on back-to-backs where he misses a game. So I expect Knuckle not to get 116 every week on a 4-gamer, but he can pretty much average 20 Supercoach points, I would say, over the next couple of weeks. And if we're looking at that over a 3-game week, I'd be happy with a 65-plus score from him on a 3-game week because he's just playing so well for a rookie right now. And they are in no way in a position they need to not play him. Like, they're not winning, so it doesn't really matter. And you may as well just keep kind of improving those young guys. And he's someone that they should be improving and giving him that core time. Like, this week, he was the 7th highest ranked basketballer. Like, I know there's different ways to rank basketballers, but putting all your statistics there, I have this little website I go on. It's more for fantasy purposes. But he was ranked the 7th best player this week. Better than Jimmy Butler, better than James Harden, better than Donovan Mitchell, because he had 27 points, 5.5 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, 5.5 3-pointers. Shot at 58% from the field for a shooting guard, which is incredible. Didn't miss a free throw on 2 a game and had just over 2 turnovers. So not only is his efficiency high, but he's actually not turning the ball over that much because guys like LaMelo are the ones with the ball in their hand. He's also playing 37 minutes a game. So it's not like they're really worried about the minutes he's playing. Yeah, I mean, if you haven't got Knuckle and you're really confused and you don't trust a Caleb Love and you don't trust anyone else on this list and you don't have him, you can pretty much still go there, I think.
Beautiful. What I will also ask with that, obviously he's a sniper. Does it show the 3-point percentage he had for the week, or?
I don't have the 3-point percentage. Okay. I think I could get that if I had the advanced statistics, but no, I don't. Sorry.
That's right. Most of his shots are three-pointers, so we'll just say 58% was the field goal, so we'll just say it's that. No. But look, it's definitely going to be up. It's definitely going to be very high. He shoots those so efficiently. So moving on down, look, Whitmore's the number one here. He's obviously the lowest break even. The thing you've got to take into account here is he's got a 2-game week, so his break even is going to be naturally lower because he plays one less game. So technically, Shepard and Knuppel are going to have a better break even than Whitmore. Saying that, Whitmore, he hasn't really earned too much money this season. I've seen a few games where he's been big and then a few where he hasn't really done anything. What's your take here with him?
Yeah, he's a tricky one. I mean, if the minutes were better, I could trust him, but he's only playing like this week. He's still only played 18 minutes a game. That's just not enough. Like he did well. He averaged 15 points, 5 rebounds, assist, a third of a steal, a third of a block on 63%. I don't think the 63% sticks and a really low turnover. So I just think he had one of those weeks where he made the most of his run. I think Wizards got blown out in a couple of these games as well. So he would have got a couple extra minutes and the shot was falling for him. I don't think you can kind of consistently think that this is going to happen. Look, he's young. I don't understand. And I get it. NBA teams at the start of the season want to try and win. Wizards have won 1 or 2 ball games. They're still playing Chris Middleton. They're still playing CJ McCollum, who are these really great veteran presence around the locker room for these guys, but they're not doing much. Well, I mean, CJ's been all right, but especially Middleton, he's not doing anything. I don't know why they don't just start Whitmore. Like, you got him in a trade from Houston. He's young. He's showing you that potential off the bench. Why not give him 25 minutes a night? I know he probably has some flaws in his game still, but the only way he can get better is by playing more. So I think if we were to start seeing those minutes get up into the 20s, you could confidently kind of select this guy. But I don't want someone in my team that's only playing 18 minutes.
Yep.
And in saying that, it needs to be a really, really high efficient 18 minutes to be relevant. So, yeah, I don't know. Best break even, but I just don't trust him.
No, it sounds good. Now, there's probably only a couple more we really want to look at this list. First of all, Derek Queen, 7.9 million, 1 break even. He's on a 4-game week, though. So remember, Knuppel and Shepard have these on 3-game weeks, these -10s, -9s. Derek Queen's probably got as good, if not better, break even, having a 1 on a 4-game week. And someone that's also been incredible, 106, one of the top scorers for the week. Me and you were talking about it before the potty. I mean, Zion came back, and I personally, as a non-owner, was thinking, yes, I really needed him to slow down, and the man sped up. What?
He's honestly a great basketball to watch. He's very unorthodox, very unique in the way he plays. They're playing him like Jokic. Now, he's nowhere near Jokic yet, but he's profiling like a Nikola Jokic. High rebound numbers, great assists from the center position, which is such a rare thing to find. And look, he's got his flaws. He's a center that's not shooting over 50% from the field, so he's actually not shooting well. He's also averaging, or especially he averaged 4 turnovers this week. So again, you look at those things and you're like, well, someone who's shooting 49%, 4 turnovers, you'd expect his scores to be a little bit less, but he's just doing so much else in the other areas, like 20 points a game this week, over 8 rebounds, over 5 assists, nearly 2 steals a game, and just over 1 block a game. Like, he's doing so much elsewhere that it's kind of counterbalancing. And no, he's not going to be like a Jalen Johnson Maxey type who's scoring 140 plus on these 4-game weeks. But for the price we've paid for him, which was bargain basement if you got him when he was before his break even went up, he's putting out 100s easily. He's in that kind of Knuppel bucket where he's probably going to be able to average that 20 baseline per game Supercoach number, which is just gold from someone at that price. And as you said, Verns, Zion's come back, but he's still playing. Okay, and that's the main thing we wanted to see. We wanted to know who are the Pelicans actually going to move away from when Zion's back. It was actually Sadiq Bey, who is someone that we will never own in Supercoach. So it's so awesome to see that they're just like, you know what? Derek Queen is someone we gave up a first-round pick next year for. We got to make sure that the media and the league sees why we've done this, and we're going to play this guy into the ground, and he's playing awesome. They're not getting wins, but it's directly improving his performance, and it's improving our Supercoach scores, and that's what we're all about. Did you see that last second play where he stole the ball?
See. Yeah, well, you posted it. You were like, I love it.
So just for everyone at home, in the NBA, they had this weird rule that if the team's winning by so much, they just dribble the clock out at the end of the game, and it's like this kind of respect thing. I think it's ridiculous. I think if you're going to just stand there and dribble, I think anyone else has the right to do whatever they want on the court. Now, in the NBL, they don't do it because percentage matters. So in the NBA, percentage doesn't matter, and that's why they kind of do it. But this bench player, I think his name is Vic Krekic or something from Atlanta, he was just dribbling the clock out, and then Derek Queen snuck up behind him, stole the ball, ran down the court, dunked it with about 7 seconds left, and the Atlanta Hawks players weren't happy, but I was, because that was a 4-point Supercoach swing for me right there.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I saw. Obviously, it happened in the EuroLeague as well. I remember in the Greek game, and almost started a fight after that game. But you see people get into each other's face after that, and it's like, man, is it really worth it? Like at the end of the day, like if the kid wants to score, whatever.
Exactly. Like, just grow up. Seriously, grow up.
Yep. And at the end of the day, it's a highlight. Everyone loves watching a little dunk. You know what? Make it fancy. Do something cool with it. But yes, looking at the players at the end here, I don't know who Pat Spencer is, so I don't know if there's any relevance there. But the other one is obviously Keyshawn George, who was not great for, I think, 1 week, but then came good again. Look, a 2-game week here, not someone you're going to target, so really just need to skim over him, and he's 10 mil, so you're not really paying for that price. If you own him on a 2-game week as well, I know his break-even's low, so you can hold on to him if you want, stash him on your bench. It is a lot of money to stash on the bench, though. I mean, if you got 5 mil on the bank, you can just upgrade that to like a proper premium.
Yeah, he's definitely taking a leap. Like, don't get me wrong, he's improved tenfold from last year, but as you said, he's a bit of a yin-yang at the moment, and I think a lot of his early season percentages that were very high have started to come down, and I think the turnovers have also gone up a bit, and that's why he's probably not scoring as highly now.
Yeah, perfect. Well, what we will do is we will quickly jump to, not that one, here we go. We will jump to the targets for this week. Now, we already sort of had the scores for this week, but I'm going to hit average, I'm going to hit filter, and we're going to bring in sort of the teams that we talked about with that really good fixture. So we've got New York, New Orleans, Minnesota, not Portland, it was Toronto, Detroit, and Indiana.
Yeah.
They're the teams that we're sort of looking at here. We look at averages, and there's a reason you said we're going to be targeting the Detroit players. We'll look at that right at the top. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it's funny that Duran's actually averaging more, and I think it just comes down to pure efficiency. I think this game is obviously driven in that direction. Now, not to say that Cade isn't efficient, because it's very hard for a guard to be an efficient player. But like, you know, when you're comparing Cade, who averages 48% from the field, compared to Duran, who this week shot 71% from the field, there's a lot of points that are not being lost there for Duran. So, you know, it's such a tough call. Like, if someone was to say, I only can get one of these two in, who do I get in? Obviously, you're looking at, you know, the positions that you have available. But if the flex was open, that's a really tough one this week, because I'll be honest, Duran's taken another step this year. He's taken a jump. Do I think that what he's averaging now is what he'll be averaging for the rest of the year? So, for example, this week, 24.5 points, 9.7 rebounds, 3 and a bit assists, actually less than a steal and a block a game. And he's never been a big blocker. So, like, for a center, he's only averaging like half a block, which is crazy. But he's just so efficient that I think that kind of makes up for it. So, look, if I look at his stat line from this week, 24 points maybe comes down a touch. 9 rebounds, though, that should go up. He was putting up some monster games at the start of this year. He's had some 16 rebound games that he can come. So I think that can even jump up a little bit more to the kind of that 11.5 to 12.5 range. The assists, I think, will stick. He's a really good passer for a big guy, and they run a lot of kind of pick and roll between him and Cade, or a bit of a give and go. So where Duran will get it, and then they might run a screen for Cade. Cade gets it back, open shot, bang. So look, I think some things will come down, but I also think other things will go up for Duran. So I think that 30 Supercoach average is something that you can actually kind of have him averaging for the foreseeable future. So if you're going to kind of bank on efficiency over potential, I would go Duran. But if you're someone that wants to take a massive risk and, you know, kind of the all-star pick, I think Cade Cunningham's your man. Like, he's just putting up some insane numbers while Detroit are playing well. He's averaging 27 points, 7 rebounds, 10 assists, 1.5 steals a game, roughly that 48% shooting. What's killing Cade is just his turnovers are quite high. You know, he's averaging 3.5 turnovers, which isn't great. He's also only averaging 27 points over the week. He's someone that can traditionally average in the 30s. So if he can get his points up, but also keep his efficiency up, you can see his score actually overtake Duran. So I know here it looks different, but this is because Cade only played 2 games as opposed to 3. So look, you can't make a wrong move here, in my opinion. One of these 2 Detroit guys probably has to be in your team, just based around how they're performing individually, but also how the team's performing and how they want to continue to win. It makes sense to play these guys if they're healthy.
Yep. And Detroit, the top of their conference, I think only dropped 1 game this season. Just really, really good. I guess with this, I do want to ask about the injury potential. Obviously, Cade missed last week with an injury. So did Duran with an injury. This week, Cade obviously missed the first game and then played the following 2. What's the injury history with these guys? Are these guys that do miss games?
Big time. Yeah, they're both not. I think Duran's extremely not durable. He's got weak ankles. Every year it's an ankle injury. I've owned him in fantasy formats over the years, and it's just really frustrating when he turns an ankle very easily. So, if his ankles can hold out, he'll be fine. That's the only injury he tends to get. Touch wood. I probably just said that now, and he probably breaks an arm tomorrow or something. Cade, however, he's had a history of injuries, but they're all different. Like, I think there was a shoulder one season. He just hurt his hip when he got absolutely posterized someone, but got kind of tunneled and landed straight in his hip. So he's more of those kind of knock soft tissue injuries, whereas Duran's more of those kind of ligament kind of stepping on someone's foot going for a rebound type injury. So look, it is not uncommon for these 2 dudes to get injured. So yeah, buyer beware, I guess. But again, you never know. Like, there are guys that play literally 95% of games in a season and then they go down without season-ending injuries. So like, you can never predict these things.
Yep. Oh, no, it's good to hear. Good to hear. Now, obviously, we've got a few others on the target. I want to focus on Julius Randle and Karl Anthony Towns and Brunson, just because these are the guys that have the 3-game week in round 8 as well. So they go 4-4-3. So the best sort of fixture going forward. Julius Randle, someone that had a brief appearance in my team at the start of the season on one of my team reveals, but didn't start him. He's been really, really good right up until sort of this week where he had a really down week. Why has he been so good? Is it just because Ant's been injured, or what's been happening?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I mean, Ant was out for a considerable amount of time early in the season, and Randall really kind of took to being, that person that rallies the team together. Ant is the guy, unfortunately, on that team. So, like, I just expect his usage to get bigger and bigger. But props to Randall. Like, each year we talk about his inefficiencies, which are his efficiency. Funnily enough, his inefficiencies are his efficiency. And he showed that right here. So this week, 43% from the field on 16 shots a game. And that's horrible, by the way. And 66% from the free throw line on 9 free throws a game. Ooh. So he's losing somewhere between probably 15 to 20 Supercoach points on missed shots alone. To be fair, he's kept his turnovers down, which is something traditionally that's been high in the past. Like, season and week average is both below 2.5. So that's really good for him. But it's those really big inefficiencies. Like, put it this way, for the season, he's averaging 52% from the field and 82% from free throw line. And then this week he's gone 43% and 66%. Which one do I think is more realistic? To be honest, in between both of those. I think he's more of like a 47, 48% shooter from the field goal, and then free throw probably around that mid-70s. So I don't think it can get as worse as this week, but I also don't think it'll get as good at what it was. Just because I think Ant has kind of come back now. He's feeling good. He's going to take over, and Randall's going to kind of pick up those pieces. But just the kind of some of the shots that Julius Randle takes, you just kind of sit there like, what are you doing, mate? You're just jacking up shots for the sake of it. He must have like a field goal attempt clause in his contract where he gets extra money for taking a certain amount of shots. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think he's the best pick. I don't think he's the best pick this week, put it that way.
Yep. And look, because we're on the Minnesota boys, we will move to Ant next. Obviously, the other one that we would be looking at, someone a lot of people started with. In my opinion, if you're looking at anyone from New York and Minnesota, it's probably Anthony Edwards. Let's be honest here. He's probably the best fantasy player, even though he hasn't shown it this season. He's had a lot of injuries, though. I think even this week with the 67, he had like a 13-point, like Supercoach point game. And yeah, just once again, someone that does shoot high volume shots, and I'm going to say probably the same situation as Randall, probably someone that when he's shooting well, going to be going through the roof, but will notoriously have bad games.
Yeah, so he's a little bit better than Randall in the sense that his field goal is usually a touch higher and his free throw is definitely a bit more consistent. But so if we can, let's compare like Cade to Anthony Edwards. What lets Edwards down is he doesn't rebound and assist very well, whereas Cade pretty much nearly triple doubles every game. So I think just for the super coach kind of element of the game, Cade profiles a lot better because he does a lot more in those departments, whereas Edwards is really a high scoring guy that usually does it pretty efficiently, won't turn over the ball too much, that won't kill you. But then, he's a pretty good steals guy, but then he just doesn't get enough rebounds and assists. And like Ants, what did Ants score this week over the 3 games?
So he scored 67 over the 3 games, and Cunnington over 2 scored 68. So
Okay, that's the proof in the pudding right there. And I was going to say that Edwards actually averaged just under 3 steals a game this week, and he still only averaged that. So that's your premium kind of scoring there, getting those 2-pointers. Because the efficiencies were so low and he wasn't scoring, rebounding, or assisting as well, that really capped his scoring. So, look, Edwards to Randall, definitely Edwards. But Edwards to Cade, I think there's a bit of a gap there. I think Cade's a bit of a different gravy in that conversation.
Yeah, and we did obviously mention as much as you might have a 3-game week in round 8 there. I mean, 3-game week this week, and he still got outscored by a 2-game week player. So you could go Cade, potentially score better on the 4-game weeks, and then on the 2-game week potentially match him anyway. So, pay up a little bit more. Quite a significant difference in price though, so that's something you got to take into account. But same role. Now we will quickly look at Cat and Brunson here. Cat has had a pretty decent season actually, and once again, another player I needed to just be woeful. I won my Supercoach Cup by 20 points, and they had Cat, who's been really good, 30 points a game, and he came out for a very, very... there was one game he was really terrible in, which capped his ceiling this week, and I very much needed that.
Yeah, well, Karl Anthony Towns had a massive year for New York last year, and then I think they kind of mixed the rotation up a little bit where they kind of wanted to include an extra center in their lineup. So he went from playing center to power forward. Now, that might not mean much to people, but what that essentially means is that he's probably playing a little bit more away from the ring when it comes to defending. Usually he's defending a power forward, and most power forwards in the league now can shoot from 3. But to be honest, it hasn't even impacted his rebounding. That's not what's gone wrong with Cat this season. So Cat's still averaging 12.5 rebounds, and I expect that to stick. He's a bit like Jalen Duren in the sense that he actually averages about 3.5 assists a game for a big guy. His steals and blocks are a little bit low, similar to Duren. And here's where it gets interesting. Can you remind me, Verns, what was Duren's field goal percent, roughly? I'll give you a clue. It's above... just for the week. It's above 70.
72?
There's a clue.
Yeah, no, 72. I thought it was 72. Yeah.
Karl Anthony Towns this week shot 39% from the field. And for the season, is only shooting 43%. So for a center, he's not that traditional, get me in the post, let me get close to the ring, let me dunk. He's a center that likes to shoot the 3 and will stay out on the perimeter. However, what I want to say about this is actually maybe a bit of a blessing in disguise, because I think a lot of people will look at this and be like, oh, no, that's yuck, I'm scared. I think he's still averaging close to what Duren is averaging Supercoach-wise, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
so I think
28.3 though.
Okay, so he's only, 1.7 less than what Duren is averaging. And I think that field goal can come a little bit up. I don't see Karl Anthony Towns shooting 43% for the rest of the season from the field. Now, can we predict when it starts to actually go back up? No, because he's just gone off a 38% week. But if Cat can, get that to 45%, let's say, okay, he's saving himself because he takes 16 shots a game. He's saving himself per game something like 7 or 8 Supercoach points. And if you have that in a 4-game week, okay, that can be an extra 32 Supercoach points that goes straight onto his score if he's shooting just 45%, not 70% like Duren, but just 45%. Now, if we look at Cat, he's got one of the easiest actual matchups or weeks coming up. So the New York Knicks play Brooklyn tomorrow, who are pretty much in tank mode. He then has a day off, plays Charlotte, who have got no real center to defend, who are also terrible. They then have another day off into a game against Milwaukee, who they may not have Giannis. So again, another semi-par team without Giannis. And then into Toronto, who don't have a bad center in Yucca Purtle, but Toronto they'll be their second night of a back-to-back, and they've been resting Purtle on the back-to-backs. So, like, I'm looking at matchups purely here, and I think Towns has a better run than even Detroit do this week, in my personal opinion. I think Duran's probably the safer option, but I'm actually kind of tempted to do a bit of a sneaky pod play and see if Towns can give me a massive week. Because I think there's so much improvement in his baseline stats that should actually allow him to score really well in this 4-game week.
Yeah, definitely sounds like high risk, high reward with Anthony with Cat versus Duran, who's probably, as you said, the safer pick. So, I do like the sound of that, and I always love a cheeky pod. Now Brunson, probably the last guy that we'll try and touch on here. I mean, Indiana, there's no guys that really jump out to me. Siakam's been all right, but nothing crazy. But Brunson obviously was injured, did return this week, played all 3 games, I'm pretty sure. Just gonna jump to him. Actually, I'll tell you in a second. No, only actually played 2 games. He played only 2.
Only played 2.
Yeah, and he got a 61. So played 2, and had 2 pretty good games. Looking at that.
Yeah, well, he averaged over 30 points a game, 8 assists. He's really good at those kind of flashy stats you see on the box score. Shot it over 50%, so that's probably something that may come down a little bit. But yeah, really efficient week for Brunson coming back. And the one thing I like, straight back into 36 minutes a game. It wasn't like, okay, you've hurt your ankle, we're going to kind of ease you into 20 minutes and 24. He's just gone straight back into playing 36 minutes, and I think that'll continue this week as well. Brunson, again, just doesn't do enough compared to Cade, okay? But again, if you're wanting to kind of pivot away from that, or if you don't want to kind of take 2 Detroit guys and you're a little bit nervous about maybe the injury risk, I mean, Brunson's injury risk is probably no better than Cade's, to be honest. But at the same time, it could be nice to kind of spread your wealth across the 2 teams, if that's something you might be thinking of as well. And I guess the good thing with New York is they've got some guys out. So, OG Anunoby, who we spoke about last week, he's still out. Mitch Robinson, even though he's a center and he doesn't do much, he's actually someone they still rest in back-to-backs and think, not that they have him this week. They often give him nights off for his injury stuff. So, they're going to rely heavily on Brunson and Cat this week, put it this way. Their matchups are quite easy, so you're hoping that there's not too many blowouts that really kind of caps their score. You're hoping that they get kind of stuck into these kind of tight ball games that relies on to play those 36 minutes a night. But yeah, I guess he's a decent pick. What's the difference? I can't really see the screen there, Vince. What's the difference between the prices in Cade and Brunson, just out of interest?
3 million. So Cade's 3 million more expensive.
Okay. Well, look, if you're really strapped for cash, I do think Cade still he definitely has the better ceiling, and I do think he scores more this week. But, if you really can't, if you're trying to move heaven and earth and you really still can't get Cade, I mean, Brunson's obviously that probably second best option. I probably would have him over Edwards, to be honest, just because Edwards' inefficiencies kind of lower him down.
Yeah, easy. Something, sorry, I actually wanted to mention, just because I remember seeing the highlight of it. Cat's sort of assist to himself when he went to drive, threw it over his head to his teammate that ran away, went and grabbed it in the corner and shot a 3.
And you know what I love? I just love the arrogance of the ref to be like, oh no, it was tipped. Where it clearly wasn't, but the refs just like are so obsessed they're making the right calls. They were so confident the ref was like, nah, that came off hands, when it clearly was this Cat fumbling the ball into his own hands. Like, come on now.
Oh, it was so funny. I loved it. I love that he hit the 3 as well. But to be fair to the defenders, at the end of the day, Cat kept playing the game, grabbed the ball, shot shot the shot, and the defender's just standing there, as you said, doing this, and it's like, bro, until the ref blows his whistle, play some defense. Why are you giving him an open 3? That's literally on you. That's on you. But yeah, so we've gone over the main players. Now, I guess this is the hardest thing of the week, in my opinion, to finish off with. It's captains. Captains for the week. I mean, Jokic on a 3-game week. Honestly, we've already seen it. Last week he was the highest scorer of the week on 3. And we've seen he can go for 60-point games. He can still get close to 150, if not 150, in a 3-week, which is, example this week. Even if he got 150 in a 3-week, he would be the highest scoring player. So Jokic has always got to be an option, obviously. Yeah, who else jumps out for you? I'm going to guess a few of the Detroit boys.
Yeah, definitely. And just on Jokic, looking at the schedule, they play tomorrow. Then they have 3 nights off, and I think that's really good. And that's really good for Jokic. I think they've been playing some kind of big kind of chunks of games. So He definitely, because I think the fact they lost to Sacramento means he definitely will play all 3 games. Not that there was any kind of scare in that, but I think it's lovely to see that they've got 3 nights off after this one. And I think having Memphis, even having Spurs without Wemby, and then having Phoenix Suns with Mark Williams, who's good, but like he's not very good defensively. I really think that Jokic can put up around that kind of 50 super coach average, which he's been doing. So he's a no-brainer. If you want to kind of rely on some 4-game players and just try your luck, you got your Cade, who I think is probably the best ceiling there. I'm actually going to put Cat as my third option. I'm going to go a little bit potty here. I think Cat could have a really big week if he gets his shooting percentage up and if those ball games are a bit close. I'm hoping that they don't blow out, as I said, all these teams. And then I think you can't go wrong with Jalen Duren just with how efficient he's been playing. And I do expect his rebounds to increase. Like only having 9 rebounds this week, if he had 12 in each of those games, that's an extra, I know it's only 9 points, but that makes his 90 go into the hundreds, I think. Because then he get, what is it, 96?
Yeah, get a 105.
Yeah, 105. And that just looks way better. So in 4 games, if he's getting an extra 3 rebounds, and that's an extra 12 points if my math serves correctly. So I think, any of the 2 Detroit guys, Jokic on that 3-gamer, and then maybe Cat if you are getting him in, could be some good options.
Yeah, no, love that. I guess the only thing with the New York players, I mean, if you bring them in, I mean, there's 2 things. Like, obviously, close games for a great points this week you'd want, but at the same time, if they blow them out, they get a bit of a risk. They still put out decent enough scores, but because you're going to have them for the next few weeks, I mean, you kind of want that more, would you not? I mean, it's the sort of thing with Shea. Getting a rest is meaning that he continues to perform at the highest level consistently without missing a game. So, I guess you'd be happy, I think, either way, if they blow them out or it's a close game and they score well. So, yeah, I guess to wrap it on up, I don't know if you want to go through your trades. For everybody watching, my trades, I'll do my video after this, throw it up on my channel, and you can see them there. But what about you? Did you want to speak about your trades at all, or?
Yeah, I haven't looked too much into it. So kind of the week's wrapped up and we're actually recording this quite earlier than what we used to, which is great. So I haven't really thought about anything too much, but I've kind of got the idea of moving out Giannis, unless for whatever reason he comes back tomorrow, which I doubt, but I'll be moving out Giannis, probably getting in Cade Cunningham, so shifting a few things around. I think Kalkbrenner might have to go as well. So trying to find someone short there. Might use my first boost because I do want to get Karl Anthony Towns in as well because I want to kind of put my words on the line. I do want to see if Cat can live up to the little potty expectation that I've kind of chatted him up to be. I just think the data suggests that he should be doing more, which is good because he's already averaging 27 and a bit points for the season. So, yeah, the idea is to get Cade and Cat in. I'm wanting to get Duren, but I just want to spread away. I don't want to have 2 Detroit guys just in case. Just want to kind of hedge my bets a little bit. But again, I would not be shocked if those 2 boys are the 2 highest scorers for the 4 gamers this week.
Yep. Look, I know I said I'll keep mine to my channel, but look, Cat, I do love it just in the sense that I do think it's important to try and still set up a good fixture in the sense that obviously week 8, he gets the 3-game week as well. You get that 1 extra premium game. And I think it's good to at least maybe get one of those guys this week with that fixture, a 4-4 into a 3. I think that's probably best. I'm sure people are looking at this fixture and making other wacky plays. You're going for guys that have got 4-game weeks into a 3-game week. I say wacky, but maybe targeting more 1-week plays. At the end of the day, it's unlimited trade, guys, so you can go for a 1-week play if you look at next week and you go, actually, I don't really have anything to do next week anyway, so I might as well just bring a guy in for a 1-week play because I can just bounce them out next week for free. So definitely other options on the board and do your research into that. But let's wrap it on up here, Boz. So you got any parting words for the viewers?
Well, I just want to really quickly, I know it's a bit of a weird time to put this in, but just quickly touch on maybe a couple of mid prices just in case someone out there doesn't have the money. I think really quickly for Indiana, there's 2 guys. There's Benedict Mathurin, who's for some reason just shooting out of his skin at the moment and pretty much scoring Supercoach points due to the amount of points he's scoring during a game. He's not a bad little mid-pricer there because they do have a nice little run, the Indiana Pacers. Also, the other one was someone that a lot of us had in our team and he got injured in the first game of the season, Andrew Nemard. Okay, so he's another option that's been playing quite well. Unfortunately, he's been turning the ball over a lot, but he's someone he's a good scorer, a good assist guy. So I think he could be someone that if you need to kind of save some money. And then last one I want to touch on, and I mentioned it during the injury segment, There's a guy from Denver now that has kind of put his hand up as the starting power forward. It's Peyton Watson. Now, most of you are going to be like, that's a random name. But he's been starting at power forward for Denver. We actually got into the starting lineup when Christian Braun went out. So he kind of came in as power forward, and then they put Anthony Gordon to the small forward, Cam Johnson down to the shooting guard. Peyton Watson is now in a position where Aaron Gordon's out for 4 to 6 weeks with a hamstring. And also Christian Braun's out for another 4 weeks as well. He's at an awkward price, being that 7.9 mil. However, we've just spoken about Con Knuppel, these kind of guys, so we're kind of advocating for you to still get into your team because of their low break-evens. I know he plays 3 games this week, and it's a bit annoying, but I think the time is now to get on someone like this guy because his role for the foreseeable future is going to be really, really good. He gets a lot of good defensive stats. He had one game in this week where we're going to see his price in a score inflated because he actually had a career high at about 30-something points in real life. But the other couple of games, he's still got, 14, 20, 14. So I'm not expecting big things from him. But I just think with that 39 in his system, I think he's going to be able to make a little bit of money. So if we are a little bit stuck on finding guys at that bottom kind of basement price, look, if this guy was 5 million, I'd be so keen. If he was 5 million, you're jumping all over him. But because he's 7.9, he's maybe someone that you might not be able to get in just purely because you can't afford the other guys you want. And then lastly, Vince Williams Jr. from Memphis. He has a low round score purely because Ja Morant played in the first game this week. He's now the starting point guard for them for the foreseeable future. Ja Morant is obviously out for at least another week. Ty Jerome has not made his season debut and won't be making it. But if we see there, the 3 games that he purely started, he was getting in the 20s, putting up great rebounds for a guard, great assist numbers, couple of steals. He doesn't shoot the ball well, but, for someone at 6.2 million, he's someone that can potentially make a little bit of money in the future. Now, I know Memphis have a 4-game week this week, so he could be a very interesting option to play on your court just to help you out with the scoring over the week because he will be the starting point guard. I know it's a bit late to touch on this, but I just came to my mind now when we're thinking about wrapping things up.
No, I'm really glad you did. I'm looking at those guys going, man, I would love them. Unfortunately, personally, I don't own Derek Queen, so I probably have bigger fish to fry.
Oh,
But
definitely.
no, I love those. No, good options, good options. All right, well, if we're actually ready to wrap it up now, where can the viewers find you, Boz?
Yeah, just on Twitter, SC Boz. That'll definitely test to see who the true listeners are there, Vern. So they got some extra juicy goss right at the very end of the podcast. But yeah, another great pod. Happy to be here. Good luck, everyone, in week 6.
Yeah, awesome. Well, guys, you can find me at just Verns_SC on Twitter or at Verns Supercoach. As I said, I'll go do my round review after this and actually lock in my trades. But yeah, honestly, awesome pod, mate. Love doing these ones with you. And I'll be honest, hadn't done my actual weekly review yet because every time I do it, I then get on this podcast with you and then change things anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I was like, you know what? Let's do this first, and then I'll actually lock in what I'm going to do.
Love it. Great idea.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. Once again, don't forget to like, subscribe, come join our open league. But till next week, peace.